Hi, I'm Krista Redpath, and you are listening to Where Are They Now?, a summer podcast series brought to you by Krista Redpath Media, where we break down the game, elevate the story, and champion the female voice.
A different sort of subject, but I found this interviewee, as well as his story and just the elements that he brought to this interview, utterly fascinating. Deldre Carr is our Where Are They Now subject. He was a Griz basketball player in the early 2000s. He had a whole bunch of injuries, which really kind of derailed his time as a player. He really missed the game, though. He wanted to stay a part of the game, so he starts refereeing. Well, he quickly worked his way up the ranks. Now, he's one of the top officials in the Western United States. You've definitely seen this guy on Big Sky Conference games. Because he's a Griz alum, he's actually only done one Griz game. And he said after doing that, he went to the Officials Association and said, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. That was kind of weird. But he's done plenty of Bobcat games. He's done a whole bunch of other Big Sky games. You probably most commonly, though, see him on the Pac-12 and on the Mountain West. He's a top-level official. So it's fun just talking to him about his view on the game and what it's like being an official. What does it take? What does he think of the state of college basketball? And, of course, one of Krista's favorite themes this summer, what does he think of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon? We also have a good question as part of our interview snippets here today from our intern Zoe. So she will make her ESPN radio debut. She's been shadowing Krista all summer and hopefully learning a ton. And she had a good question for Deldre, so we'll play that for you as part of this interview here today as well. All right, let's get to Deldre Carr. Tell us a little bit about Deldre. I know you know him really well. We'll get into his days here probably in the second segment, but I thought this was a really good interview, so thanks for setting this up.
Deldre is just a phenomenal person and definitely a good friend of mine and someone that I look up to, married to Cheryl Keller Carr, who's one of my dearest friends and teammates, and it's just been great to watch his journey. I think, Coulter, as your athletic career winds down, you find ways to stay involved in the game.
Definitely.
And one for me has been broadcasting.
Totally.
You know, that's been my avenue to stay involved.
Both of us, for sure.
And to just be involved with the sport, because there's so much excitement and youth and just goodness that surrounds the game. And so I think was neat to listen to Deldre and his journey about his father that has passed away, giving him that push to, hey, follow something that is close to your heart, and just starting the whole official journey and looking at how serious he takes it. And I think it was interesting to just take a look inside the lens of an official. I've never met an official I liked as a player. I'm going to be very honest right here. Now, Bob Schofield is my friend, which I never thought that was possible.
The veteran Big Sky official has been doing it for years and years.
But I've kept my space from officials, and again, I work with them now, so it's a little different. But just to see the approach that Deldre takes and just the amount of preparation and also the critiquing.
Yes.
I thought was interesting, Coulter, is just how much he really relies on his sister-in-law, Julianne Keller Solomon, JD, and Cheryl for those critiques.
One note here before we get into some of this interview. I do think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding amongst people that follow college basketball. I hear this all the time, especially at men's Griz games or men's Bobcat games. Oh, Big Sky refs are terrible. They suck. First of all, in the men's game, there isn't Big Sky refs. In the women's game, there is. The women's structure is you are a referee within a league, and you can maybe do one or two different leagues. In the men's side of things, there's consortiums. So you have basically groups of refs. So if you watch college basketball a lot, like when Deldre is at his height, or like Greg Nixon's another guy that travels around quite a bit, you could be watching the Griz versus Idaho State on Thursday, or Utah State versus San Diego State on Saturday. You can see these guys all over the place. So that's one thing I just always want to make sure people know. There isn't Big Sky refs on the men's side. And if you think, oh, these guys are just terrible, well, that guy might be reffing UCLA USC 2 nights later. Like, I promise they're not terrible. They're, in fact, elite referees. So,
and one other thing I want to add about Deldre that I think is fascinating is he did go through a lot of injuries, tearing that Achilles and having some adversity during his playing days. Coulter, I think that helps people and helps him relate to the game and understand what some of these athletes go through. And so I just see him really growing into this whole career that was more of a hobby and now has grown into a career.
No doubt. Deldre Carr, or Where Are They Now, presented by Ryan and Miller Law. Well, Where Are They Now continues, and a fun one now. A former Griz basketball player as well as a man who's officiated basketball games both in the Big Sky Conference and all across the Western United States. One of the top officials in all of college basketball. Deldre Carr, our guest. I got so much respect for you and a lot of the guys you've done this with for a really long time, because you guys know the league well, you know basketball out west well. So just give us the update on the here and now. You're an official, but just give us sort of the details on where you've been at and how long you've been doing this, how you got into the officiating game.
After graduation from University of Montana Griz back in 2002, I moved back home to Las Vegas. And as some know, chasing the dream of basketball, you know, a dose of reality hits after college. You know, I'm 6'3", 6'4". I come a dime a dozen. Overseas was an option. It was brought to me by one of my teammates who actually, Travis Greenwalt, had asked me if I maybe wanted to go over to France at the time with him. And, you know, it was thrown around for a bit. I spoke with my father about it, and he was like, you're going to fit right in over there as the norm. Everybody there can shoot threes and do what you do. And I'm not no high riser, flying dunker like Dan Trammell, like I used to be or whatever. So, you know, reality set in, and I needed to find some type of hobby of some sort. And my father was like, you should look into possibly golfing or refereeing. And I was like, I'm not a big fan of golf. It's hot here in Vegas, as you know. It's 119 degrees yesterday here. So golfing wasn't one of my big things. And then refereeing, I kind of turned my nose up to that as well, because I didn't like referees too much. But he had explained to me that he once tried it. He tried it back when I was young, and it was a good little thing to do to stay in shape and to burn some time. So, you know, I tried it out, and I ran into a couple Big Sky officials that ref me. And they took me under their wing, and that's how I ended up start refereeing from there. I did high school for a couple of years and pursued the pro routes for about 6 years, you know, and I was in the G League the D League at the time, developmental league. And from the developmental league, it kind of spliced off into college. As you know, I have 3 daughters. The first daughter, I was gung-ho on being in the NBA. After my second daughter, things kind of changed a little bit. I needed more of a schedule that permitted me to be home with the family a little bit more. And with college basketball, you have a little more freedom to choose your schedule, your dates, and block out birthdays, etc. Whereas with the NBA, you know, you're with the NBA. They kind of control your schedule for about 8 months out of the year. And with that, like I said, I started officiating. I work here at a law firm here in Las Vegas. I've been at this law firm, Lady Griz, since 2003. So it's going on 21 years. And they've been very good with me with flexibility of working from the road and officiating games. So, you know, that's where I've been.
What % of your officiating colleagues do you think have day jobs? I think sometimes people think refereeing is all you do. Maybe other people aren't surprised by the fact that you also work in law. How many guys have day jobs?
Well, day jobs, I would say a lot of the guys, probably about 60% of the guys have full-time jobs. When you start getting into the guys that are reffing 70 to 110 games a year, the day job, it becomes very strenuous, and it will take a toll on your profession or whatever your day job may be. So if you have a flexible boss like myself, you know, the managing partner was a college official as well. So, you know, from day one, he's always been really good and open with me and allowing me to work from the road. But a lot of the guys that do heavy schedules, day job, not happening. But probably I would say of the guys that do 70 to 100 games, it's probably about, out of the 900 officials doing college Division I basketball, there's maybe 60 guys that are getting the bulk of that.
When you first decided that, you know, you wanted to pursue this more heavily, you mentioned that maybe you didn't like refs when you were a player. What was that transition like? Like, how did you sort of become such a great official yourself? Like, was it weird for you to transition into that role at first? And how did it sort of, how did you sort of turn the corner in visualizing yourself as somebody that's refereeing basketball games?
I like to say this about former players. We're all competitors. We all want to do well. You know, and being that you play basketball, you want to be the best. Well, when I started officiating, it felt like I was still on the floor. I just wasn't catching any lobs. I wasn't shooting any threes, but I was part of the game. So it was like a different feeling. I was like, this is just like playing basketball. And then, you can stay in shape, and you want to do well at what you do. I try to always explain to young up and coming officials, I said, hey, know the difference between perfectionism and striving for excellence. There's no such thing as perfectionism or being perfect. And as officials, we try to be perfect sometimes. But as you guys all know, that when you watch a game, there's things that are missed. With my competitive nature, I always want to try and get the things right. And I've learned over time that you're not going to get everything right. But it was always me feeling like I was still playing. Instead of making that 3-point basket, you want to make that correct call. You want to get that block charge play right. You want to do all those things because it's all for the betterment of the game. Being a former player, that's what you want to see. You want to have officials out there that when you leave the court, they don't recognize you. You blend in like paint, and they know that they got a fair shake. And, that's one of the good feelings from the losing team, best player or the coach, to give you a slap on the butt and say, hey, good job tonight. I didn't play. I just called the game how I saw it. So, it's kind of like playing.
Deldre Carr, our guest on our Where Are They Now? Presented by Ryan and Miller Law. Ryan and Miller is a law firm specializing in personal injury and criminal defense. They handle cases across the state of Montana and focus in specific areas of law to ensure they provide clients with the best representation. Their firm proudly handles automobile accidents, medical malpractice claims, wrongful death claims, DUIs, and criminal charges. Ryan and Miller Law, your Montana attorneys. Visit ryanmillerlaw.com. One interesting question from from Krista's intern from the summer. Here it is.
So I was just wondering if bigger games like tournaments or playoff games tend to change the way you call a game or make calls during a game, especially as a former player.
Well, I like to take every game that I get into, a tournament game or a regular season game, and I like to take them all the same. I will tell you that there may be venues or places you may go that are a little more, I don't want to say harsh, but they're fans, 18,000 people, not a single open seat in the house, at times it can get to your nerves a little bit, but, I've been doing it for so long. I kind of have my little self-talk and my meditations that I do to keep myself within the game and to not allow that to affect you. But I will say this, we are human, and, sometimes things may get you, but I always tell people when you miss one call, go back and you owe it to get the next call right. I said, don't snowball it. Don't miss a call down here and then miss a call down there, because instead of having one call wrong now you have two calls. Just block it out, hit the reset button, and go back to your fundamentals and try and get your plays right.
Krista Redpath in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. It's our Where Are They Now series. It's proudly presented by Ryan and Miller Law. At Ryan and Miller, Paul Ryan and Angie Miller truly care about their clients and their community. It's important to their firm that they can help out local Montanans. Every year, the firm finds a way to give back to the Missoula community and surrounding communities. The list is over 100 organizations that they help out. Every year, they proudly put together backpacks for kids in the community to donate school supplies to local students. Also, I've loved getting to get a chance to be friends with both of them. Congratulations to Angie. She just had her baby, I think, last week. So hopefully that's all going well, but sounds like it's happy and healthy.
True.
Very cool. Congratulations to her. That's their second one, and so good job by them. We're going to keep rolling on Deldre Carr. So just one thought from you, Krista, on Deldre and his time at UM. You mentioned he's married to a great Lady Griz player who's one of our subjects on our Where Are They Now last year. Deldre Carr, of course, a former Griz basketball player who's now a top-level official.
Well, I think Deldre, just a credit to what he is doing with managing a law practice, also, nurturing a refereeing career. He's also a girl dad. He's got a teenage daughter that we heard all about, Addison, who is on the basketball circuit this summer, and they're very busy traveling with her. And Naya and Aaliyah are at home. And I just think that the amount of things that he's juggling and what he's doing, it just shows that he's really doing it. I mean, he is walking the walk, and I think it's pretty neat to watch him have success.
The timeline here, Deldre Carr played at Montana in the early 2000s, so that was a very weird time in Montana basketball and athletic department history, really. He had a whole bunch of transition. Blaine Taylor left the program. He was a beloved head coach. Don Holst took over, who was another local guy from Montana. There was the renovation of Dahlberg Arena, which made both the Griz and Lady Griz have to play at Sentinel that one year. That was a very strange year for you during your playing career, I know, right?
Well, I blew my knee twice, so I sat out the year at Sentinel.
She had to sit out.
But, Coulter, you really nail a certain point there. I mean, the colors changed, the arena changed, everything was just, it was a real transition. And then coming back into Dahlberg Arena with just a whole new look and all new colors. And yeah, it was definitely a transitional time. And I think there was a lot of adversity on the men's side, especially with the coaching changes.
Deldre Carr and his memories of his time with the Griz.
Deldre, you talked about being a girl dad, but we breezed over the fact that you married Cheryl Carr, amazing Lady Griz teammate, dear friend of mine. Does she have an opinion or critique you as an official, being just a basketball family? When you go home, has she watched the game and been like, Deldre, you missed here, or here are my thoughts?
So here's the thing. My wife, Cheryl Carr, and Julianne Keller, who is Julianne Solomon, those two, and then Julianne's husband, JD, they're my three minds that I like to tap into after each one of my games. They're honest. They're all former coaches. They played and they all coached on a level of some way, shape, or form. And after a game, say for instance, a televised game, I'll call them and I'll say, hey, number one, how were we? And I said, what plays stick out? Now, being an official that's been doing it for so long, you already know which plays that you have a couple head scratchers on. You're wondering like, I might have missed that. When they give me their honest assessment, I go back, and first thing I do is I go back and I look at why did I miss something. Because I'm usually out of position. But Cheryl, Julianne, JD, those three right there, they do critique my games when they're televised. And, they're honest with it. And that's what I like. I like to get a different view from like coaches, because coaches, they get it. They want to know why something is a certain way. And when they ask me certain questions, why was it this? Why didn't you guys call this? It keeps me fresh in the book as well. So yes, my wife does, but I will tell you this, our daughter now plays basketball, and it's hard watching games, number one, with the fans and with your significant other and others who have also kids on those teams, because they don't see it how a ref sees it. I have a tendency to kind of take myself out of it and take the parent aspect out and see it from being a parent and as a referee. Like my daughter, I'm like, you didn't beat that person. That's blocked all night. That's not a charge, and I try to give her pointers as well. And my wife, she's a parent. She's still going to be a parent. She's going to let the referees know. And, when she does that, I have a tendency to move away to the other side, because I'm not there to comment on the refs, because I already know that they're trying their hardest, and refs don't go out there to intentionally miss plays or mess things up. But fans sometimes forget that we too are human and make mistakes as well.
You've done plenty of games all around the Western United States, plenty of Big Sky Conference games. I've seen you officiate some Montana State games. Have you ever gotten sent to Missoula? And if so, what's it like officiating at your alma mater? I'm sure some Griz fans from a certain era definitely remember you.
All right, so Coulter, here's the thing. I got put on one Griz game there's a gentleman that couldn't make it, and I was the only person open to come do the Griz. Now, we can work our alma maters in exhibition games, whatnot, games that are meaningless, but an actual regular season game or a preseason game, we don't do our alma maters. So the Griz have been out, but I had the signer at the time. She asked me, she goes, Deldre, can I trust you? I know you're a great official. I said, hey, I'm as unbiased as they come. You can put me anywhere. I'll referee my mother or my grandmother the same way I'll referee this person. I said, I won't give any favoritism. And it was Wayne Tinkle was coaching, and they played USF at University of Montana. The fans are great. The Montana fans are great, period. But it was a game that went into double overtime. The Griz lost, and it wasn't a good feeling. And I realized then and there, I was like, I will never step in to do another game for the Griz. Now the Cats, I've done the Cats many times. Cats.
I was going to say, I definitely remember you doing the Cats, because I remember Brian Fish had known who you were from his Oregon days, because you'd done a bunch of Oregon games. And then I remember he was always very happy when you got Bobcat games.
Well, you know what? I like Montana, and I hope they both do well regardless of where it is. You know, and Fish is a great guy. They had another great guy there, Danny Sprinkle, whom I'm also was really good with. And, you know the good coaches they're pleasant to work for, you know, and you just go out there and they know they're going to get their best with you. You're going to try and give them their best, and you're not going to go out your way to do anything wrong. But, you know, Cats have always been good to me in regards to being an official, you know, player might be a little bit different, but, you know, it's all good.
Playing college basketball, Deldre, is more about the relationships. And you talk about your relationship with Shane Christensen playing since you were 7. Do you keep up with your Griz teammates now in just their regular life?
Well, yes, there's a few that I keep in touch with. As you know, Shane Christensen, we're close, beyond close. Ryan Slider. Slider was there with me at University of Montana. Me and him, we stay very close as well. He's, as you know, he's a photographer, and he does a lot of photography work, video work for a lot of these teams, these pro-am leagues, and he does great work. So me and him, we've talked. He's actually done some video work for my daughter and her team at one point. I go to Portland, Oregon, or anywhere, he's always there. Even when I go up to Spokane, to Gonzaga, or Seattle, he's there. You know, his work that he puts on he puts out there is very good. So I keep in touch with Slider, keep in touch with Scooter, Shane Christensen, Dan Trammell. We and him have a relationship as well, where we still kind of talk. He's down in the Southern California area, and whenever I'm down there, I always touch base with him, and we can keep in touch. And as you know, there's a handful of Lady Griz that I still talk to, Laura Valley, yourself, my family. So, you know, Brooklyn Lorenzen's also in Oregon. So it's a handful of people that I still keep in touch with. You know, I'll get a text message from Brent Cummings every now and then when I'm in Pullman, you know, because that's his old stomping grounds. His parents used to always check the games out, and they'd send him a message, your buddy Deldre's on the game, and then he'd send me a message. So, you know, we all keep in touch, and that's about it. So there's a few, you know, some that left that I also stayed in touch with. Jake Stewart, his daughter, who also plays basketball. She's about a year older than my daughter. They played on a team or two where my daughter has joined some of the Montana teams and played with those girls. So, you know, I like to I travel a lot. So if I'm traveling, I'm in an area and you were a former teammate of mine, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to touch base with you, and maybe we'll go out and have some coffee or a bevy of some sort.
Where are they now? All summer long, presented by Ryan and Miller Law. Ryan and Miller Law, your Montana attorneys. Visit ryanmillerlaw.com to see how they can help you. Deldre Carr, our guest, former Griz basketball player, longtime top official in both the Big Sky Conference and the Western Consortium.
Deldre, we know that all these relationships are really what it's about behind the games. However, listening to you mention Shane Christensen, Ryan Slider, we have to dive a little bit into that 2002 Big Sky Conference tournament over in Bozeman, where you went over and knocked off the Cats and then ended up beating number 2 Eastern Washington to head to the NCAA tournament right over in the Brick. And boy, what a game. Both of those games, upsetting Montana State and also Eastern Washington, the infamous Dan Trammell play that I think is still talked about. We probably shared it, Coulter, on our show. But can you elaborate just a little bit about that Big Sky tournament and what that was what that was like being a part of it?
Okay, so going into that tournament, we were probably like the 5th seed. We were not predicted to win. 4th, 5th seed, whatever it may be. We were at a rough patch. We defeated all odds. That play with Dan Trammell. Like, I see John Lazowski here in Las Vegas. He's a good buddy of mine as well. He actually still plays. I ref some of his games, and he's quite the character to go out there and watch play, and he can still stroke it. He was a very good basketball player, and he's still a very good basketball player. He's proclaimed himself the 6'8" great from Montana State, you know, and he somewhat lived up to it, I can honestly say. But those guys even talk about that dunk, and he wasn't there, but he was watching it. But Dan Trammell, when he caught that off the rim, because we were on eggshells, we were like, they might get us. And Montana State that year was a good team. They had a handful of players: Pete Conway, Aaron Rich, Casey. I can't remember Casey's last name or whatever his name was, but they had a good team, and they beat us 3 times that year. And it was like they just had our number. And I was just like, man. But for us to stay close, Dave Bell to be knocking down his threes and doing the things that he does, and Dan Trammell to catch the one off that missed,
by David Bell. It's just, it's amazing that, and for all of our listeners and viewers out there, Dan Trammell caught the rebound off the rim off of David Bell's miss and had an enormous dunk that ended the Bobcats season.
It was very memorable for a lot of people involved, the Griz fans and the Bobcat fans, because like I said, they all talk about the 2002 dunk, and that's the 2002 Dan Trammell off the rebound dunk. So it was pretty phenomenal.
Deldre, you were a player that faced incredible adversity with injuries, tearing your Achilles heel, and having to go through that. And I know that as a player that went through 2 ACLs, that's really challenging mentally. A true testament is you being named co-inspirational player for your team that year with Ryan Slider. We all know individual awards for basketball stand for way more than just yourself personally. Can you talk about your leadership that sometimes extended far off the basketball court with this team?
Well, Coach Sampson, Jim Sampson at the time, he would always put the recruits with myself and Shane Christensen. And we had a few inner city kids that came from, like, for instance, with Philadelphia with Marcus Rosser, rest his soul. Marcus Rosser, Victor Ventures, all those guys had came up. And when you take these guys out and you're trying to get them to commit and come to the Griz, you know, we owe it to them. You know, I may not be the star player that's on the court, but when I took guys on their recruiting trips and showed them good times and had fun, my goal was to make sure that when they came to Montana, they felt home. They didn't get homesick. I wanted them to feel a part of a team. And that's one thing that I will say. I would always make sure that I want everybody to be comfortable. Even if I'm uncomfortable, I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be comfortable so that you can perform and be at your best. And we can all say that we did this together, you know, and that was one of my biggest things is we were a team, you know, and the guys that I came here and was with for that 2.5 years. Yeah, I may have been through some adversity, but there were times that they picked me up, and I wanted to make sure that those guys were also picked up and were able to succeed at doing what they did. So I owe that all to just, you know, when Sampson would give me and Scoot that Papa Bear talk and tell us, you know, I want you guys to go out here and show them, okay, I got you. We got you. They're going to be happy. Because let's be real, Missoula is a hidden gem. I knew nothing about Missoula until Shane Christensen told me when I was back on the, I guess you can say, recruiting trail when I was in San Diego. He's like, we have a spot up here. They flew me in, and I was amazed at the fans there. You know, you guys took me to some football game, and Adam Boomer was the one guy that stood out to me because every time he made a tackle, the entire arena or the entire stands are boo. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, why would you not want to come to a place like this? You know, Montana, Missoula in itself, like the fans just make you just want to be there. I'm like, if I'm a kid and I'm in between wanting to go to a smaller D1, say in California, and then there's an opportunity to go to Missoula, Montana. I said, try out. You just go up to Missoula and try it out. You'll see they treat you like the Lakers up there. So, you know, it's great.
Do you have definitive memories from your time here outside of basketball? I mean, obviously you love the town.
Yeah, I do love the town. I love you know, you had your little spots you go to like Stockman's and the boardroom, which I don't think is there anymore.
No.
We had some fun times in the boardroom, Deldre.
Yeah, you know, but Lady Griz had a nice little house. I just recall that. That was a fun little spot over there where Robin Selvig's old home that he rented out to you girls that I'm surprised is probably still standing. You guys were a wild bunch. But, you know, the Griz football players, the Lady Griz, and the men's basketball team, that was a little fun time, I can honestly say. There was a lot of stuff, Coulter, to answer your question. I can't just put down just one, but, you know, I will say I had fun up there.
Wild times, the Lady Griz house, Krista.
We definitely knew how to have a good time, all of us. We enjoyed college life to the fullest. Hey,
anybody that went to school at the University of Montana definitely did. It's our Where Are They Now? Deldre Carr, our guest, Krista Redpath in studio with me, Coulter Nuanez. It's probably presented by Ryan and Miller Law, your Montana attorneys.
Deldre, the theme of our summer series is to discuss and dialogue the Caitlin Clark effect or movement in America. there's many players that have also contributed to this, but could we discuss why America, or get your opinion on why America is so captivated by her and what this has done for women's basketball, being a girl dad?
Okay, being a girl dad, what do I like about Caitlin Clark? I will tell you this about Caitlin Clark. She's 5'11", 6 foot, really. And when I say you're 5'11", 6 foot, and you're breaking all these scoring records and doing all these things, you have to be at awe. If you love basketball, you love watching this girl play. I will say there's a lot of great players out there, but not everybody has broken records like her. You know, if you're 6'9" and you're dunking, great. You're 6'9". You can be dunking. Brittany Griner, no, nothing against her. I think she's a great player as well. But when you're 5'11", 6 foot, my daughter can emulate that. So if you want to be great, I want you to watch her. I want you to watch her. Not only does she shoot the ball extremely well, she grabs 7, 8 rebounds. She's going to get you 8 to 10 assists. And she's that all-around player that, you know, you want to see. And you want your kids to kind of like emulate that to a certain extent. My daughter, she plays like that position 2, 3, or whatever you want to call it. So that's what I want her to do. Now, if my daughter was 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", whatever, I tell her to watch somebody more like Angel Reese. I said, watch how she uses her body to get those rebounds and do all that stuff on top of it. But with Caitlin Clark, it's just amazing to see someone with, you know, like I said, 6 foot, and she shoots from the logo. That was unheard of. We didn't have logo shooters back in our time. So Steph Curry starts doing it in the men's side, him and Dame Lillard. Now it has trickled down into the women's game, and you have a young lady, Caitlin Clark, and you have others that are now doing it. Sabrina Ionescu. All these girls are shooting shots that I couldn't shoot now or back then. You know, I'm more get closer to the 3-point line, your percentage goes up. No, these players are now shooting from a step across half court at 40%. You know, so it's pretty amazing to me to see what she has done and what she's doing for the game currently.
Caitlin Clark is on pace to be probably have the best rookie season of a WNBA player. It's her preparation, and I think where she came from with Iowa, staying in one spot for 4 years. How do you feel about that, Deldre, as a father looking to help your daughter eventually choose or help her decide where she wants to go play? In a time of the transfer portal, Caitlin Clark defied all odds and stayed with Iowa for 4 years. She announced to Lisa Bluter when she was a sophomore, hey, we're going to the Final Four. She really stuck with her team and built something at Iowa.
Well, one thing about staying there that shows a little commitment to me, and I'm a firm believer in all these things are contracts. And when you go to college, I look at it as a 4-year contract. Now they're 5 years or whatever you want to call it. But I would want my kid to honor that. And I get it. Some people go to smaller schools and then they want to go a little higher to get a little more publicity, to get a look in the league. But for Caitlin Clark to, number one, everyone knows Connecticut is the team. The Connecticut's, Stanford's and all that, those are the teams where you expect them to always be in the Final Four. Those are the best of the best. You know, Iowa was decent, but, you know, she's put Iowa on the map. You know, let's just call it how it is. And for her to stay there all 4 years and not take, for instance, a transfer portal and go to another school and hop, you know, that's just, to me, it just shows her level of commitment. And, you know, as a coach, that's what you want. You want somebody that wants to be, you want to get better and they want to be committed to you.
Part of our Where Are They Now series presented by Ryan and Miller Law. Ryan and Miller, a firm that's been around, that has more, than 40 years of experience. To be around more than 40 years, that'd be too old for our friend Paul Ryan. They have a team approach to every case, and they act like it's going to trial from day one. This ensures they're always prepared and ready to press forward on their cases to get their clients the justice they deserve. You can get a free consultation 24/7. They have a 24-hour answering service, 406-542-2233. You can also visit RyanMillerLaw.com. Let's get into it now. Bring it back around. Deldre Carr, our guest, former Griz, he has been doing this now for quite some time. He's one of the veteran officials in the Western United States for men's college basketball. And I just wanted to know what keeps him going.
Deldre, will you take us through your summer with following your daughter, what that looks like? I know she's playing in a highly competitive travel basketball setting down in Las Vegas, but can you tell our listeners and viewers just a little bit about what that entails and how Addison is doing?
Well, okay, let's see. So Nevada is, I wouldn't say it's a big market for basketball, kind of like Montana. You guys have a lot of good players, and those players, those young ladies that are really good, they tend to go to the, I guess, the Northwest Blazers, and it's like a region. Well, we're similar to that down here in Nevada, where it's a region of Nevada, Arizona, and California, and some Utah, where they'll take these teams and they'll pluck three players from each state, and then they'll build a team right there, and they'll go from there, and they'll use that. They'll call that their eyeball team or their elite team or whatever their travel team is. From there, you'll do 2, maybe 3 tournaments a month. I will say it can get expensive at times, because, we go on trips, we're going to have a good time. We're not going to just sit there and stay in the gym. We're going to go sightsee. We're going to make sure we're eating well and enjoying our times there. Because, being in a gym, you can't always.
Time. You get good family time on these trips.
You get great family time. And then, like I said, we will also enjoy it because you can't make these 16-year-olds do exactly what you want them to do sometimes. So you have to go out and just kind of enjoy yourself too and let them do their thing. But it can be, I would say it's not stressful. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. I love being around the parents and watching the growth of the girls and the team get better as it goes on. But like I said, we travel to Chicago here in a couple weeks. She travels to Kentucky tomorrow. So, this club sports, AAU basketball, it's not for everybody. I'll tell you that much, but it's fun. It's really fun. Like I said, Chris may ask me the things that I enjoyed when I was young, and I'm like, I can't really tell you because right now I have kids that I enjoy watching their progress. I have another little daughter that's going to be doing soccer. I'm looking forward to watching her grow and do her things. So, we just enjoy watching them grow.
I've done a lot of umpiring and officiating and stuff, never at nearly as a high level as you, but, certainly up through like Legion baseball and stuff like that. And people always ask me, like, how do you handle the criticism or like, why would somebody do that? It seems like you're kind of in the line of fire. You're always somebody's enemy if you're the official or you're the umpire. But I always just tell them, if you just take it as serious as you possibly can and you do a good job, there's not as much backlash as you might think. But when it comes to your seat and your role, but also if you were encouraging other people to get into this, how would you sort of tell them to handle that? I mean, what sort of skin, how thick does your skin have to be, and how do you sort of endure a lot of the vitriol that comes with this?
And you hit the nail on the head. You have to have very thick skin when it comes to this. This is a thankless job. All right, we're not accepting any awards and whatnot. There's very few that do. But someone that's doing a job like so, I always like to just put it this way: when you're going out there and you're officiating a game, you're going to try and get all the calls right that you can, knowing that you're not going to get them all right. But at the end of the day, it's going to work itself out. There's going to be some calls you're going to miss down here. There's going to be some calls you're going to miss down here. You want to blend in like paint. You want to be the person that got in, got out. You didn't have any fights on your games. And, there was no real major issues. I will say there's going to be learning steps. But as long as you're on the path where you're going up, I like to call it the escalator. As long as you're going up, and you're continuing to prepare and working on your game, that's fine. It's when you start taking the dips and dives is where you lose track of what is your purpose. When you start dipping down, I'm like, why are you dipping? I like to ask myself, why are you missing things? Are you becoming lazy? Are you tired? Are you out of shape? Have you been doing too many games? At some point, I started to tell guys, once you learn how to get your whistle intact and you know what you're blowing, I said, quality over quantity. Meaning you want to start doing quality games over the quantity number of games, because naturally any person that becomes tired, they're going to have a tendency to make more mistakes. So with that being said, you have to have your proper diet, proper rest, and all the other factors that go into preparing for these games so that you are of par and doing things okay. But there's other factors that you have to take care of. You have to prioritize knowing what's important in your life, with family, making sure your family house is taken care of, because there's some guys that'll go on the road, they won't talk to their family for weeks, and then the stress of that can then fall into your game. You want to keep a clear mind. You want to kind of have everything, your ducks lined up, and, of course things are going to happen. Life's going to happen, but the more you prepare, the better you are for when those things have a tendency to happen. But, it's all about preparation to me, Coulter. I would say, preparing and looking at video, going back, reviewing your tapes, looking at the things that you got wrong. How are you going to not make the same mistakes the next time? Because growing in, like I said, in officiating basketball, a lot of it's video. The video doesn't lie. You have to go back and you have to review your tapes and find out why and then correct it. And just understand it may happen again, but you want to minimize those errors.
What's your favorite part about doing it? And what keeps you going? What keeps you still wanting to pursue this and keep getting better at it?
I guess, Coach, I've always just loved basketball. And, I look at it like this. We get paid a decent amount of money to run up and down the court. This is our cardio, and the better you are, the more games you're going to get, which means the more you're going to get from doing these games. I used to always say, I do it for the love of the game. At the end of the day, now that I'm getting older and, and I have to take care of the family and do all that other stuff, there is a part of the monetary part that comes into play here too. And, the more games you get, once you get into the tournament, it bumps you up another bracket. So you want to continue to grow. With me, and I could tell those other guys that are coming up the ranks, I said, hey, there are unlimited amount of games. I can't do them all. But if you prepare and get yourself to where you're at with me and you, we can both do them together. So this is, like I said, it provides a pretty good lifestyle for my family and, allows us to travel all this AAU ball in the summer.
I'm inspired. Deldre Carr's inspired me. If you could have 3 kids and be work at a law firm and be an official doing 80 games coast to coast, what a stud. It's awesome. Great interview. Thanks for setting that up. It was a lot
of fun and I hope our listeners and viewers really got a glimpse into just the realness of being an official.
I got to say, I find officials some of the most captivating people to talk about in terms of the state of the game, because these guys, he's watching 80 to 90 college basketball games a year while being involved in them, but he's also doing it from an objective, unbiased perspective, so he doesn't have emotion attached to it. So to hear him confirm my inklings that it does take teams a while to coalesce, and that the chemistry in especially men's college basketball has eroded. That was affirming for me and also very interesting for him. So I appreciate Deldre Carr. We appreciate Deldre Carr for being our most recent guest on our Where Are They Now series. Chris Redpath, Coulter Nuanez. Where Are They Now presented all summer long by Ryan and Miller, your Montana attorneys. Ryan and Miller, dedicated to providing their clients with the best representation. They work as a team to provide a one-of-a-kind legal service for each of their clients. Their team works hard to ensure their clients get the compensation they deserve after being in a car accident. Consultations are always free, so call 406-542-2233 to discuss your case with Ryan and Miller. Visit ryanmillerlaw.com. Ryan and Miller, your Montana attorneys. Krista, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coulter.